Good morning, Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie Schnyderite, and I'm joined by our wrestling analyst, Joey Klender. Joey, we had some not so exciting, I should say, some disappointing news. Yeah, I was like, I guess it's exciting in the aspect of like, holy shit, like I mean, maybe not. I'm just trying to cover my ass right there. But yeah, some disappointing news for sure. Shayne Van Ness is now out for the season per Kale.
Yeah.
That's a pretty tough blow for the Nittany Lions. Just talk about, I guess, your initial reaction to it.
Yeah, definitely disappointing. I'm not sure if this happened maybe before the match Sunday with Kasich coming in and filling in at 149, even though he's listed as a 41-pounder. I guess it might have happened in practice. We're hearing torn ACL. We're hearing, that's pretty much what we've been hearing. We're not confirmed on that yet, but definitely a big blow. Van Ness is returning All-American, took third last year, made to the semis, lost to Diak Mihalis. It's a big blow. There's no putting it lightly. It's definitely a big hit to the lineup. It could have some implications in terms of the team race at nationals and at the Big Tens. Van Ness he's a scorer, and he's kind of one of those guys that separated himself from a lot of the other competition in the entire country. So he's a guy that's going to go out, get you bonus points, score a lot of points, and win a lot of decisive matches. So yeah, it definitely hurts. This one sucks.
In terms of replacement, you kind of just hinted at it, but is that the way you think you're going to go for the rest of the season? Or
I'm interested to see what they do early on, because based on this year, what I saw at the Lehigh match Sunday and early last year, I know we do have the Olympic trials coming up on the 15th, or
I think it's 15th.
Yeah, I think it's the 15th. So we know that Brooks was not wrestling Sunday against Lehigh because of that. He's expected to wrestle this weekend. Kale said that he should be in the lineup this weekend. We probably won't see Robbie Howard, which is another disappointing thing to deal with, and we'll get into that later. But where was I going with this? Kasich's probably going to be filling in at 49, I would imagine. He came out Sunday. He looked really good in the first couple of periods. He kind of gassed out in the third. I think it was more of an adrenaline thing than a shape thing.
Yeah.
You're fresh out of high school. You get a start and rec call the very first home match, and still have emotion. It's pretty good environment to be wrestling in. But he looked good, and I don't think he'll have any problem filling in there. In terms of 149 as a roster, they only have a few options. They have Imran Hurd, and then they have Connor Pierce, who's a redshirt freshman. I would hope that we'd see Pierce at least once this year. He was 7-1 last year as a redshirt freshman. He was very impressive in high school, 140 and 18 in high school. He was a state runner-up as a senior. He's an option too. I kind of hope we see a little bit more of. I hope we see the options that are available to Penn State. I hope we get to see them all kind of utilized to see who could win the spot. But based on what I saw Sunday, there's no reason Kasich shouldn't be the starter at 49 for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, no, of course. Now, you did say that it could affect them in terms of NCAA, in terms of team points and stuff like that. I know there's rumors that obviously Iowa's going to get a couple big name transfers before the season's over. It just started technically, but you know what I mean, in the second semester. But how much is this going to affect them? I know it's still a very top heavy lineup. They still have a bunch of big names, and they still should all place, if not win, NCAA individual titles. So how would it really affect them, I guess?
Just in terms of the team race, I think individually, you could make the argument that Van Ness was definitely, expected to win at 49 this year, or if not expected to win, one of the top names at that weight class. With Bartlett at 41, obviously he has some competition there. 74 and 97. 97 is really where things get interesting because of AJ Ferrari. There's a lot of rumors that he will end up at Iowa for the spring semester. He's a national champion from Oklahoma State, and he's got a couple years of eligibility left. that's going to make things interesting in terms of the team race because him being an NCAA champion, when you have that accolade, first off, you're expected to win. You're expected to win and win a lot.
Yeah.
You're expected to score bonus points. That's really where the team race is won and lost is bonus points. We've seen a big emphasis on that from Penn State in the past. I think the closest team race was like 2013. You could see Cale Sanderson telling Ed Ruth, like, you need to score. Like, you have to score. You have to get bonus points here he was wrestling Robert Hamlin of Lehigh that year in the finals. And, Van Ness is definitely somebody who the lineup needs in terms of bonus point scoring. That's where Penn State has won their national championships and where won their Big Ten team titles, is the bonus points. So I'm not thinking that Kasich can't be the guy that kind of comes in and does that. But Van Ness was just based on experience in his third place finish last year. You'd have to, you kind of expected him to come out this year and do that same thing. So it definitely does tighten things up. I don't think it'll be, the difference between first and second maybe, but I think it definitely throws a wrench into things just because before this lineup was so solid from 41 to heavyweight, 33 to heavyweight, really, because of McGow. 25 is just really the only place where things are just kind of iffy right now. And out of 10 weight classes, to have 9 of them where you just have hammer after hammer after hammer, we're spoiled in the fact that for the last 12 years we've had such solid lineups. But yeah, I mean, it just makes things interesting in terms of the team race. Things are definitely going to be tighter, especially with NC State having a great team. Iowa's got a good team. There's a lot of good teams out there, and it's going to be interesting to see when these postseason tournaments come around how his absence kind of affects the team as a whole.
Yeah, no, of course. It's definitely a big blow to the Nittany Lions. There is a duel this weekend. Hofstra's coming to town. I'm not going to go too in depth with it because they're not good. But just looking through their lineup, there's a couple guys that still have yet to get there's actually 4 guys in their starting lineup that still have 3 or 4 that, depending on the weight classes, that still have yet to get a single victory this season. What's just what are some of the things you're kind of looking to take away from this weekend? It's an 0-1 Hofstra team, and like I said, they're really not the best in the world.
So my big thing was on Sunday against Lehigh, I felt that the first half of the lineup was a little bit lethargic. I thought that they just kind of looked flat, and I'm not sure if it's just because it's the beginning of the year or what, but I didn't see a lot of finishes from shots, giving up early takedowns, giving up early points. The latter half of the lineup did a much better job of going out and taking care of business and scoring bonus points, getting tech falls, getting falls. I didn't see that from the first half of the lineup. So I'm kind of hoping that this match here will be – I'm not going to sit here and say I was ever worried on Sunday in terms of the team points, but it was a little frustrating after, it was a little frustrating from a fan perspective, I'm sure, but it was a little different to see the team not go out and really fight to just go out and dominate. Like I said, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. If people are, tired from, traveling for Thanksgiving, or if there's maybe people are getting over an illness, whatever it may be. All those things are factors, but I'm just kind of hoping to see this weekend more offense early in the matches, going out, taking care of business, scoring points, and making this pretty much a no worry kind of victory, just because this is a team that they should really go out and dominate at every single weight class. There really shouldn't be too much of an issue anywhere in the lineup. That being said, I'm interested to see who comes out. That's another thing that you have to pay attention to, because early in the year, like I said, last year and this year, we're now seeing that, some other guys are getting looks. At 25 last week, we saw Steen. I don't really know what's going on with Robbie Howard. I'm not sure if he's dealing with injuries again. I'm not sure if there's something else going on, but he was scratched. We're not going to see him again this weekend, according to Kale. It's interesting that they didn't put Braden Davis out there, even though he's, in this early season, 7-0, taking care of every match he's been in, been really impressive. With that being said, Steen was very impressive last weekend. He had great defense. He looked like a totally different person compared to last year. Last year, you put him, the last year Gary Steen, into that match on Sunday against Lehigh. He wouldn't have. I don't believe that it would have been as close as it was. He looked very good, and he was up against Sheldon Seymour, who's very, very experienced. He's a senior. So I guess in terms of Sunday, what my expectations are is I guess I just really want to see who Kale ends up sending out and how they perform because, like I said, I think that the Lehigh match, the early lineup was it just wasn't what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you just based on the match alone. But going back to that a little bit, how much of that do you really think is just maybe shaking off rust because it is the first dual match of the season, maybe just first dual match jitters, maybe even? Is it any of that you think? Or is it just...
For sure. I mean, we've seen all the years I've been going to matches, the early duels, the first duel of the year, you definitely kind of see guys maybe just getting their footing and adjusting to being back in the lights, being back in Rec Hall, wrestling in front of all those passionate, knowledgeable fans. It's definitely something that takes getting acclimated to, even for the guys that have been in that situation a lot of times. Granted, Carter Strachey came out and pinned his opponent in the first period last weekend.
Yeah.
True. Not super surprised by that. But, yeah, I mean, it could definitely be that. That's why I'm just really hoping this weekend they go out and it's like, okay, we got one under our belt. Let's go out and let's beat these guys and let's not give up, let's not give up any takedowns. It shouldn't be a closed duel. There's no part of this duel that should be close. Depending on who they send out there. If they send out some guys that maybe just you want to get them a match in Rec Hall, or you want to give the guys who are the guaranteed starters a break. Like I said, the interesting thing is we could see somebody else at heavyweight this weekend, maybe just because based on Kirk last weekend, he kind of tweaked his leg or something a little bit in the first period. And, you have to wonder how much of it's going to be injury preservation or, avoiding fatigue in the lineup in general, just because of it being so early and not wanting to risk another injury that's so substantial and could make a huge difference in the team race. You already lost Van Ness. You don't want to lose another guy like that. So,
yeah, I mean, God forbid you lose one more. Then you're starting
definitely don't want that.
Starting to get a little worried there, but other than that, obviously Hofstra this Sunday. There's Ironman trials this weekend. So I guess there's some Penn State connections there. So what do you think about I guess some of the announced attendees so far?
Yeah, the Ironman tournament's this weekend. It's a really tough high school tournament. It's very prestigious. You win that. There's a couple other ones, Powerade, Super 32, of course, even though it's not, like a sanctioned high school tournament. But yeah, there's quite a few Penn State recruits that are going to be wrestling there. Luke Lilladell is the first seed at 126. Mason Gibson's the fourth seed at 132. Not a Penn State commit yet, at least in my opinion, but Bo Bassett's one at 138. Then we have Joe Seeley is number 2 behind Angelo Ferrari at 165. So I hope those two end up making it to the finals and wrestling each other. We've seen some really good matches out of the Ironman in past years, and it's a super tough tournament with teams from all over the country. They invite teams that have a lot of really good kids. So yeah, I mean, definitely something to keep an eye on for the weekend, just because there's a lot of good recruits that have already committed to Penn State, or guys that maybe have Penn State on their short list that you might want to keep an eye on. So
yeah, no, I'm just looking at the Flow Wrestling article that came out, I guess today, whatever it was. The 126 pound is it's kind of insane. 6 top 20 ranked wrestlers, 2 top 10 pound for pound rank guys per flow. Potential Jax Forrest Luca Liddell matchup in the 4th round, and I think that's the one everyone seems to be talking about for the most part.
Yeah, that could be big. I mean, there's going to be fireworks. But like you said, that whole weight class is stacked, so anything could happen. You know, I remember a few years ago, one of my favorite Ironman matches ever is Jimmy Goulabon and Dean Heil. Even though Jimmy ended up going to Penn State and he was a Pennsylvania kid, Dean Heil was no joke. He was the man. So really excited to see what the results are of that this weekend. I hope to catch the finals of that.
Yeah, and I hate putting expectations on these kids, but what can Penn State fans expect from Liddell down the line, like when he gets to State College? Because, I mean, he's obviously the top prospect on the 2024 big board, but, like, are we talking multiple NCAA championships? Probably, kind of.
I don't see why not. He's got a lot of potential, especially at the collegiate level. He's already wrestling in, big time freestyle tournaments. He, I believe he made it to the semifinals of the Bill Farrell the other weekend and lost to Spencer Lee. He was one match away from being in the finals, I'm pretty sure. I mean, he's just one of those kids that's just a really good wrestler in terms of technique and everything. It's crazy to think that these kids, 10 years ago, it was like unheard of that a high school kid would enter a tournament like that. And if they won a match, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Now you have kids that go to these college tournaments that are in high school and they dominate kids. Bo Bassett went to the Millersville Open and beat Division II All-Americans, Division II national champions, and bullied them on the mat as a high schooler, which is literally unheard of. And he's not the only one that does that. It's insane. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of Luke Liddell, I just think he's gonna have he's gonna set a high bar for himself. He's gonna be somebody that's gonna be a real hammer for Penn State when he eventually gets to State College. I think the same thing could be said about Joe Seeley. Joe Seeley's incredible too. He's an incredible high school wrestler. There's just a lot of kids. Mason Gibson's another one. And Mason Gibson's probably 4th seeded here because he had that, I think it was a shoulder injury last year and didn't wrestle. Probably the only reason he's 4th seed. Nothing to knock the 1 through 3 seeds, Davino, Blaze, and Campbell. They're all very good kids. But, I mean, I just feel like the recruiting classes that are coming up the next few years are just so stacked. It's just, and everybody's getting so much better. It's good for wrestling in general, not just for Penn State, but it's just good for wrestling in general because the level's getting so high. And these kids are so good that now when they leave college, the expectation is go make a world team, go make an Olympic team, go win an Olympic medal, go win a world championship. Yeah. It used to really not be that way. It was like if you would get a world champ or you'd get an Olympic champ, it was pretty rare. Now I feel like moving forward, it's almost an expectation that a lot of these big name kids make these teams, which is insane. It's just insane.
Yeah. You're not kidding. Now I know they do have 5 guys committed in 2024. They have 3 guys committed in 2025. Liddell is on the top of the board for 2024 for Flow's rankings. Where would you would you say he's probably got the highest ceiling of those 2 groups, or would you say it's like a PJ Duke who's probably top of the board in 2025, or even someone else? I
was gonna say PJ Duke or Liddell are probably my initial. If I had to put money on who I think would have the highest ceiling, it would be one of those 2.
Okay.
It's really tough to say who you think would go further because there's a lot of factors to take in. It's really a wild card because, I don't mean to be even close to negative or jinx anybody or even talk about this, but there are really good kids that get to college and they just don't do well for whatever reason. I don't think that'll be the case with either of these 2 guys, but, you have guys that they look like they're going to be just world beaters, and then they get to college and they do well, but they just kind of, maybe they burn out, maybe they don't really want to do it anymore. It's a hard sport. You deal with injuries, you deal with weight cutting, you deal with something, when you get out of college, maybe you just want to have a burger when you want and you don't get that chance very often. Who knows? I mean, but yeah, if I had to pick one, it would be between Duke and Liddell. And Liddell, I'm not actually super familiar with Duke in terms of the like his freestyle wrestling. I'd have to brush up on that, but Lillardale's performance at the Bill Farrell was super impressive. I thought he looked good, and losing to Spencer Lee as a high school kid is not something to be too upset about. So
yeah, no kidding.
I guess we'll see moving forward, but
yeah. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it that we have for today. Is there any other final thoughts you got before we sign off?
I don't think so, but I'll be at the match Sunday, so if anybody sees me, say hi. But on top of that, let's hope that they go out and take care of business and go score points and wrestle the way we know they're capable.
Yeah,
and you need to get the momentum going as Big Ten dual season opens up, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a relatively easy one. Last one of the 2023 calendar year. Sunday, 1 p.m. If you can't make it, it's on Big Ten Plus, Big Plus, whatever you want to call it. It's the stupid streaming service that they want to charge you another $10 for. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Other than that, we'll probably have at least one more video, one more podcast covering wrestling. Maybe do a recap of Hofstra, a recap of just where things are at, and maybe recap the Ironman. See what ends up happening there this weekend. But for me and Joey, that's another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.